Have you ever looked at a wild mushroom and thought, that looks delicious, right before your survival instincts screamed, absolutely not, chef? Now imagine being a prehistoric human with no grocery store. No poison control, no internet, no tiny warning label saying, may cause a very dramatic afternoon. That was the original food problem. Nature did not hand ancient humans a menu. It handed them berries, roots, leaves, insects, eggs, shellfish, meat, seeds, honey, and a suspicious little mushroom sitting in the shade like it had secrets. So how did they know what was safe? The funny answer is, they did not always know. The deeper answer is, they learned, slowly, painfully, socially, and brilliantly. Early humans were not wandering around licking random plants like confused toddlers with spears. They had senses shaped by millions of years of evolution. Bitter tastes often warned of toxins. Rotten smells warned of decay. Bright colors sometimes shouted, pay attention. Slimy texture, strange odor, burning mouth, stomach pain, all became clues. But clues are not guarantees. Some poisonous things look beautiful. Some safe things look disgusting. Some deadly mushrooms look almost exactly like harmless ones. Nature is basically the world's oldest prankster. And just to be clear, this is not a survival guide for testing wild mushrooms today. Modern humans have experts, field guides, labs, and still manage to make dangerous mistakes. For ancient humans, the situation was even harder. They were not trying to be adventurous food bloggers. They were trying to survive dinner. That is where observation came in. Ancient humans watched animals. If birds pecked at fruit, if monkeys ate certain leaves, if deer avoided a plant, that information mattered. But this method was tricky. Animals can safely eat things humans cannot. A goat can be a terrible restaurant critic. Still, watching the world gave our ancestors a starting point. They noticed patterns. This fruit grows after rain. That root causes sickness unless cooked. These shellfish are safer at certain times. That strange berry made someone very quiet for the rest of the day, which was not considered a 5-star review. Another powerful clue was repetition. If many people ate the same food many times and survived, that food became familiar. Familiar did not mean perfectly safe, but it meant safer than mystery food number 7 hiding under a leaf. Over time, trusted foods became part of tradition, and tradition became a survival shortcut. Trial and error played a role, but not in the cartoon way we imagine. It was not one brave caveman pointing at a mushroom and saying, "For science," while everyone applauded from a safe distance more likely. Knowledge built through tiny tests, memory, accidents, hunger, and group experience. A person might touch a plant, smell it, taste a tiny amount, spit it out, wait, and observe. Another might remember that their grandmother, or the best prehistoric version of a grandmother, always cooked a certain root before eating it. In a world without paper, elders were living libraries with wrinkles and strong opinions. Cooking changed everything. Fire did not just make dinner warmer, it transformed danger. Heat kills many parasites and microbes. It softens tough plants. It can reduce some toxins. It makes calories easier to access. A raw root might be risky. A roasted root might become dinner. But fire was not magic. Some poisons survive heat. Some mushrooms stay dangerous no matter how politely you cook them. So ancient food safety was not one trick. It was a whole survival toolkit. Processing became another tool. People learned to soak, pound, grind, peel, dry, ferment, and leach foods. Across human history, communities discovered that certain bitter or toxic foods could become edible after careful preparation. That is not luck. That is culture turning danger into recipes. Think about that for a second. A poisonous-looking plant does not come with instructions. Yet humans figured out, generation by generation, that if you remove this part, wash that part, cook it longer, or leave it buried, it changes. That is not primitive thinking. That is experimental science wearing animal skins. The most important ingredient was probably not courage. It was memory. A single bad experience could become a warning that lasted for years. A single good discovery could become part of daily life. The ancient world had no written safety manual, but it had something almost as powerful. People who remembered what happened last time. Social learning may have been the real superpower. One person's mistake could become everyone's warning. One person's discovery could become everyone's dinner. Around fires, at camps, during gathering trips, knowledge moved from mind to mind. Eat this one, avoid that one. Only eat these after cooking. Never trust the mushroom that looks like a tiny umbrella of doom. Children learned by watching adults. They copied what trusted people ate. They learned disgust before they understood chemistry. A child reaching for the wrong berry might see an adult's face twist into panic. That expression was a lesson. Ancient safety education was probably a lot of pointing, facial expressions, and urgent noises. Disgust itself was a survival system. The feeling that says, nope, do not put that in your mouth is not just drama, it protects us from contamination, parasites, and sickness. Ancient humans who felt disgust at rot, waste, and strange smells were more likely to survive long enough to complain about dinner again tomorrow. But humans also had curiosity. That is the dangerous part. Curiosity says, what if this weird thing is edible? Disgust says, what if this weird thing ends the bloodline? Civilization happened somewhere between those two voices. Mushrooms made this balance especially difficult. They can appear suddenly after rain. They come in strange shapes. Some are nutritious, some are medicinal, some are unpleasant, some are deadly. And unlike many plants, mushrooms do not always give obvious warnings. A deadly one may look calm, cute, and extremely innocent. So how did cavemen avoid the wrong mushroom? They probably relied on local knowledge more than personal bravery. They learned specific species in specific places. They noticed season, color, smell, location, shape, and what happened after eating. Most importantly, they remembered stories. Stories were survival technology. Before textbooks, stories carried warnings. The mushroom near the old log made people sick. The red spotted one is not food. The white one looks harmless, but do not trust it. A story is easier to remember than a chemical formula, especially when the villain is a mushroom. This is why culture matters so much. One isolated human is vulnerable. A group with memory is powerful. The tribe becomes a giant brain spread across many bodies. Nobody needs to personally test every dangerous food, because the group remembers what happened before, and this memory could travel. As people moved through landscapes, they carried food knowledge with them. They learned from neighbors. They copied other groups. They adapted when climates changed. Human survival was not just strong legs and sharp tools. It was shared information. There was also a simple rule hiding underneath everything. Eat what has been eaten safely before. Familiarity was safety. New food required caution. This ancient rule still lives in us. That is why a mystery container in the back of your fridge can make you behave like a hunter-gatherer facing a swamp monster. Your modern brain has supermarkets, expiration dates, and refrigeration. But your older brain still asks ancient questions. Does it smell wrong? Does it look strange? Did someone else eat it first? Why is it fuzzy? Why is it moving? Should I ask a friend, or should I just close the lid and pretend I never saw it? That is the cognitive twist. Ancient humans did not survive because they were fearless food gamblers. They survived because they were cautious, social, observant, and excellent at remembering disaster. The hero was not the person who ate every strange mushroom. The hero was the person who said, actually, maybe not that one. In a way, human intelligence grew around the dinner problem. Food forced us to read landscapes, track seasons, study animals, trust elders, teach children, share warnings, and invent preparation methods. Every safe meal was the result of a hidden chain of memory. So the next time someone says ancient humans were simple, picture a small group in the forest deciding whether one mushroom is dinner or disaster. No lab, no labels, no app, just eyes, noses, stories, fire, fear, curiosity, and a community trying very hard not to become a cautionary tale. Maybe that is what food safety really began as. Not a rule book, but a conversation. One generation saying to the next, this kept us alive. Remember it. And the next generation, thankfully, listening. So what do you think? If you were standing in a prehistoric forest, hungry, curious, and staring at one suspicious mushroom, would you trust your senses, trust the tribe, or quietly let someone else become the experiment?